Hey everybody, Dan Young here with Dan's Millionaire Code, and today I got a super special guest, super killer dude, Andrew Cordle, right?
Yeah, you
got that right? Yep.
You got it.
And man, this guy, he's got more shoes than anybody. The best shoes ever. He's done like more than $350 million in deals, and he's got his hands involved and irons involved in so many different companies, from real estate to like NFT stuff to everything. And he's just an amazing dude, and I'm just so glad that he's able to come down. Talking a lot on social media. We have a lot of common friends.
Yeah.
And he's going to show you some fire today so that you can scale your life.
Let's do it.
So let's get into this. Just a couple things.
Sure, bro.
We both love scaling.
Yeah.
And we both mastered some of our ADD to get projects.
That's a good way to put it.
Completion. So just give everybody a quick story of like how you got to where you are.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times I always view it as, I think, especially studying it, like looking back and trying to dive into like, how the hell do we get to where we are, right? And to me, I think there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's entrepreneurs that I think they're actually born entrepreneurs, and you're one. And it's something that you have inside of you. You cannot get it out of you. It doesn't matter what you do. We always have our hands in multiple things. When we're early in stage of business, we're kind of ridiculed because they'll say you have too many irons in the fire. You have shiny object syndrome, and that is a thing for sure.
Squirrel. That's good.
But as you grow and understand it, it becomes also a great diversification tool, and it becomes a great scalability tool as well. I think there's that side of entrepreneurship, which is what I fall in, and then I think there's another side of entrepreneurship that's more like they're more what I call operators or implementers.
Yeah.
That they came across a great product, they came across a great service, or whatever it is, and they were able to turn that into a business and scale it. And you'll normally find they only have that like one, that's their business, and that's what they do, and they built it to massive levels sometimes. And they're an entrepreneur, but I think there's a difference between those two entrepreneurs. Yes. And the entrepreneurs that I love talking to is that first one, because that's who I am. Like, dude, I struggled with it coming out of or growing into it, but I think it also has a lot of strengths and talents to it. I always break down entrepreneurship in like 3 phases, and this was a huge break point for me, huge momentum shifter for me. I think there's a phase that I call the compelled phase.
You're right. That's
okay, and the compelled phase is where we all start at. That's where you started. It's where I started. When you're born an entrepreneur, you can't help it. Like when you're in school, you're that one kid that's like selling stuff and creating different things. And I created a football league. Like it's just inside of you, right? As you graduate, get through high school, college, whatever it is, you're just compelled to go into business, and it's where you start at. Then I think there's the last phase, which is kind of the phase 3, which I call the called phase. The called phase, man, is where I think the greatest fulfillment and greatest enjoyment of life exists for entrepreneurs. And it's where I think that most true entrepreneurs, that first batch is telling you, I think all those entrepreneurs, myself included, we have this like driving desire that we want to do something big, like great. Not just like a big company, but like most of these guys that you talk to on your podcast or our friends, if you talk to them, they actually want to like make a massive difference in the world. Like it's not even just about money. It's like they have this thing that they want to go do. What happens though, I think, dude, is that between these 2 phases, I'm just going to tell you that in all my experience, majority of entrepreneurs never ever get to the called phase. Never. They never get there. They get stuck in the compelled phase. And it doesn't mean it doesn't take money to get to these phases. It's a shift into who you are and how you operate and what you go through to get to that called phase. Because the called phase is more of like what you were created to go do. Whether you want to say a higher being or the universe, or if you believe in God. For me, I believe in God. So it's like, I think God created me for a purpose. And there's certain things, talents and gifts that he gave me as an entrepreneur that I'm supposed to go do. It's freaking almost impossible to get to that level though. And most people get stuck in the compelled phase. Most of the people watching right now as entrepreneurs, they're in phase 1. Most entrepreneurs that you hang out with, we go speak, they're really in phase 1. Not because they're new. I have friends of mine that are worth way more money than I am. Way more money. But they're in phase 1. Wow. And what you'll find is in the compelled phase, dude, you'll know people. As soon as I say this, you'll start thinking of people. The calling, you can't get away from it. Like it's inside of you and you cannot get away from it. You can create great success in the compelled phase, But when you don't allow yourself to go to the next levels, what happens is this is where you'll find people that have a lot of money, but they're always kind of unhappy, bitter, jealous. Does that make sense? Like they've reached this level of success, and as an entrepreneur, from the outside, you look at them and you think to yourself, "My God, this guy's reached all these levels." But as you actually get to know them, most ones that are over there, they're the hardest ones because they have accomplished money, and they thought money would fill this void that of what they're supposed to go do, and it won't. Money will never create that happiness and success of that level, right? And so because of that, they get stuck in this compelled phase, and it's almost impossible for those to ever leave. The middle phase, dude, is the hard phase. And the middle phase, think about it more as a bridge.
Okay.
And I call that phase the cultivate phase. Cultivate. And I spent a lot of time thinking on that word right there. The cultivate phase, no one actually stays inside of it, though. It's only a bridge. For those that want, as an entrepreneur, you feel that drive to go do something, but to get to that called level, you have to go through a cultivation phase first. Cultivating is, if you think about it, a great way to try to describe it is like, it's like when a farmer has the land and he had a crop and now he has to till that land again. And he's got to put the blades and spikes in it and with a tractor, and they rip that ground and turn that whole ground over again. They're cultivating that land again, right? In the cultivation phase, it's where you as an entrepreneur have to go to you go there to grow, and you go there to be kind of cultivated, and it's a very, very tough phase. It is why most people, even if they get to that inside of it, a lot of times they go back. These are the basic numbers. I'm going to say these are the actual numbers.
Can you give us an example? Like, because you have been through these phases. What's someone typically doing? What were you doing maybe on your compelled phase, your cultivate phase, and then also your called phase? Like,
awesome questions, dude. So let's define it a little bit. So compelled phase, I also call that the producing phase. Okay, so compelled is producing. Cultivate is receiving. Called is giving. Okay, so the compelled phase is all about producing. So go back to when you were young and you started off in entrepreneurship, right? It was all about producing. Like, you was just making stuff happen and getting out there and figuring stuff out. And you can't skip that phase. It's impossible.
You're just selling, right?
You have to go figure it out. You have to go jump the entrepreneur path of compelled, and you're constantly producing. Here's what happens, though. A lot of times in the producing phase, this is where here's a telltale sign I tell people to if they want to figure out if they're in it or not. If you still find yourself saying things like, "Man, well, as soon as I, make this money, I'm gonna go do this."
Oh yeah.
As soon as I close this deal, oh God, I'm gonna go, blah, whatever that is, right? And I'm not saying go buy a car. It's like whenever I get to this level, I'm gonna go do all this good in the world. That's a telltale sign that you're in the compelled phase. Because you're still believing that if you can reach a level of money, that then at that point you can go do something.
That's right.
And that's not how money works, man. Money, my whole show, money is blank. Money does not work that way. And when you chase money in the compelled phase, you're chasing money constantly. And as you know, you can't chase money. There's just impossible. Money is a mirage in the desert. And like water, right? And when you are an entrepreneur and you're chasing money, and I did all this. Like, I'm not saying I read this in a book. This is the shit that I did. Like, I chased money when I was younger. The other thing that I tell you in the compelled phase, dude, is compelled phase is where you won't say this, but looking back, you'll unfortunately a lot of times you'll admit to it, and I did. In the compelled phase, the end justifies the means. In the compelled phase, does that make sense?
Yeah.
In the compelled phase, it's just about like. It's just about producing and making the next dollar, making the next deal, closing the next thing. And if that means that you have to sometimes step on someone's neck, or you've got to sell something in a way that you really shouldn't sell it in that form, or that's not actually the whole truth behind it, whatever it is, you can justify it as you do it. And I'm telling you, like, again, I did this. I'm not blaming anybody. Like, looking back, I'm like, oh, dude, I did that. That's the compelled phase. The called phase, again, is the phase about where it's about giving, and you're living a life created for your purpose. That's the giving and creative phase. The middle phase, which is where I spend most of my time teaching, is the cultivate phase. And the cultivate phase, again, is just a bridge. I think basic numbers are like 90% of entrepreneurs stay in the compelled phase.
Really?
No,
That's
yeah.
a high number.
Dude, I'm telling you. I interview 4 to 5 people a week, fly to my office, that are CEOs of companies that I interview on my show. And I've been doing it for 2+ years now. And the amount of people, entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, is like you start quickly seeing the ratios. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs stay in the compelled phase. I think about 10% end up going to the cultivate phase.
Mm-hmm.
I think that out of that 10%, this is my opinion, 9% go back.
Wow.
Go back. Because that phase sucks, dude. That's the truth. That phase
What's happening
sucks.
during that phase?
The cultivate phase is, think about it, where it's no longer about you producing, because in the compelled phase you've mastered your talents, you've mastered your skill, your gift, your genius, you've mastered it. And now you know how to use it, and you can easily see opportunity and go turn it on and go make something happen. You can go bust the door down and go produce. When you want to leave that and say, dude, it's not about money, it's about how do I really truly impact the world in a good way, whether that be for foundations or for charity or for your family, whatever that is. To get through that, though, it's not to get to the called phase. You can't get there. It's where the creator, or whatever you want to go believe. For me, I'll say God. Mm-hmm. It's more when God kind of has to say, it's like, hey, I gave you these talents, you crushed it, you nailed it. But if you want to get this phase, there's a little bit more of a turning over phase, and I'll say this is more like sometimes I define it as a surrender phase, where it's about receiving. And by receiving, I mean it's allowing me to come in here into the office with you, and you truly have no agenda.
Yeah.
There's no agenda, bro. Sincerely, there's zero agenda that you have here with me, right? We
want to help the people.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's not about you, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, you have no agenda of that you were trying to sell me this or do this thing. It was like, no, dude, this was like, you're in the cultivate phase. As you go through it changes your perspective, and it's no longer about you closing a deal, you producing, you making more money. It's about you kind of surrendering that process, allowing your gifts and your skills to be kind of molded, to be able to, if this makes sense, qualify to now go to this next level of the called phase. Because I believe in the called phase is what you were created to go do, and it takes not, it's no longer about you. It's about again, what your creator created you to go do. And I'm not trying to get into like a spiritual conversation of it, but I'm saying I think we were created for a purpose. And as entrepreneurs, the unique part about entrepreneurs is we have that like drive, that desire to go freaking, you go talk to any of our buddies, right? Mm-hmm. Dan, Sean, Aaron, they all want to do massively good stuff, right? Like they'll talk to you about it, they'll do stuff, and they have that drive, right? And to get to that level of called, I was with, can we name drop on?
Yeah,
not name drop,
yeah.
but I don't know if our buddies. I was just with Wags at his office.
He's been on a couple times.
Hanging out with him. And dude, when you get around Wags and you spend a lot of time with him, he's in this phase over here. He's in the called phase. Like, he's right where he's supposed to be. And when you get around him, you can like sense it. Like, he's this kind of like a calming, perfectly centered kind of where he knows exactly where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to be doing right now. And he lives a different life. Now, what's unique about this phase, when I say giving, I don't mean just like, oh, I'm giving back to everybody. There's that side of it. But think about how much success Wags has, right? Because when you live in the giving phase, where, I hate using this word because this is a word that I think social media has ruined. Because social media creates buzzwords that then everybody freaking loves. And it's like, dude, it is true, but you've kind of ruined it. and one of the buzzwords right now is when you add value.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just this buzzword, like, oh, I want to add value. And saying that, forget the fake value stuff, but when you actually deliver and live a life of just giving value, there's one thing that will always follow that. Money. It always follows it, right?
It just comes out.
You're not even trying to go get it. I've made more money by just focusing on creating value for other people than I ever made on this phase over here. But when you think about this, when you're over in this phase over here and someone tries to tell you, don't worry about the money, just focus on value, you're like, bro, what are you fucking, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta close this deal, I gotta make this. And you're like kind of blinded by that concept. And when people say it to you, I was like, bro, whatever, dude. That's just because you have money and now it's easy for you to say. That's not true. Like, it's just that when you're in this phase, you think it's all BS. But
you got me
truth
thinking.
of-
There was a point where I went to this called phase, and it was actually a mentor who taught me that. Because all the original mentors were teaching me how to make millions of dollars, which wasn't super hard. You could just execute what they're telling you to do, and it works,
Especially in
right?
today's world, right?
Yeah, but the called phase came when I asked one mentor, and I've adopted this into my mantra, is he said, find people's pains and help heal them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Heal's a good word.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
like,
good word.
you just look for where, like the lion has a thorn in his paw, and pluck it out, and then people are like, wow, and everyone has a thorn in their paw.
Everybody does.
Like everybody.
Everybody does.
You know, so if you could just find out what that pain is, you know, and so you're just plucking thorns all day.
Correct. And as you do that, and this is you know, I came here on your podcast, but we took this massive tour because I wanted to see, like, I want to get to know you more and get to know all that you do. And the way you described it is a great way to describe it, or your mentor did, because like as I was here, as fun and unique it is, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, hey, where could I help in any situation? And I was just super authentic. Even as I was, like, if you think about it, like as I was asking you, as something would pop up, I would ask questions, because I wanted to know, but I was also looking for that pain or something that I could find where I could help, either in secret or one-on-one. But I was looking for those things, and I'll give you an example. We went to your office.
Okay.
And
The Jedi test.
what's that?
No, Jedi test.
Yeah.
Jedi questions.
When I went to your office and I started asking you questions. Do you remember what I was asking you questions on? We did a couple of different things, but one I kept talking to you about it right at the beginning.
Oh.
You remember what it was?
Shoes?
No.
Art?
Art. And whose art?
Oh, daughter.
Your daughter's art.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I like art in general, right? And so I have art all over my office, and so I talked about it because I like it. And then you said your daughter paints it. I started pursuing that because I was trying to see if there's any way that I could help buy a piece, promote it for her. Like, that's the things that I believe you would care more about than me buying a computer or me, you know, investing in all the stuff. Like for you, it's like, I would rather you help my daughter's entrepreneurial journey by sharing this post over here than ever buying a product from me right now. Like, so that's part of what I was doing. It's a great way that you described it. It's like I was just looking for anywhere where I could help. And the trick to it is, and I say I might be super authentic, is because I was kind of showing what I was doing. But the trick to it is you can't go ask, oh, how can I add value to you? Like, that's a dumbass freaking question. Like, when you just ask someone, how can I add value to you? I think you got to go into it with trying to intently observe and ask questions, and then just listen to find where is that thorn, like you described. So, and if you live a life in that world, which is more of the world over here, dude, it's a phenomenal place to be, because this is about true, actual success. And success is not determined by your bank account.
No.
Like, if I went around all day today and everything I was going through, I was just trying to find ways to help people through pain. I gave you example after example, but I hate talking about myself. But we had one of my camera guys today had he had to take his wife to the doctor for an appointment, and I got a text from my assistant that he called and he had to take the rest of the day off. He's supposed to be gone an hour, and they think they found cancer, possible cancer with her. And so then it's immediately it goes into, okay, what can we do? What can we help? We were looking at babysitters because they have kids, so it's like, okay, this happened like poof, like that, right? So it's like, okay, who can we get to go watch their kids? How do we take care of food and dinner? Because, you know, as a wife now, it's like you're gonna go through that phase, and hopefully it comes back negative, but they found 4 spots. But then it all goes into, okay, where can we help provide value, right? And I could go through the whole different process of it, but when you live in that phase, my point to you is, when you live in that phase, at the end of the day, do you know how you feel?
Pretty good, right?
Incredible, man.
I mean, you sleep
Incredible.
good. And
You sleep good. You wake up happy. You love life. You enjoy what you have going on. Will money follow that? 99% of the time it will, because you're just taking the thorns, helping people's pains, and when you add true value, not this bullcrap social media value, but when you actually add real value to people, it's amazing.
Good people are always compelled to reciprocate subconsciously, right?
It's human nature.
You know, and if you pull a thorn out, it's like, you heard the story about the lion. You know, and the lion's like, hey man, you know,
Yep.
no one's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll protect you from here on out.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because he's your friend now.
Yep.
And it's just like, you know.
Yep, and it's an amazing process. In the cultivate phase, though, dude, what has to happen is because to get to this like high level of call to what you're supposed to go do, you got to go through this like really tough like churning phase.
Yeah.
And it's about receiving and kind of surrendering. Out there, we took those pictures. All those. I'll also call this phase sometimes. You gotta lay down the sword. Over here in Compelled, man, think about how much like back in the day you were hustling, grinding, fighting, and it was always like, because it was always about production and it was about making something happen. And this Cultivate phase is like, okay, I know you can go do that. I know you can produce, but if you lay that sword down, just kind of surrender that concept for a second and cultivate your inner being, you can get to this phase over here. But it sucks because like you can see certain things and you're like, I could go do this right now. But I have more, when I was in this phase right here, dude, here's what's crazy. When I was in this phase right here, I had more opportunity come my way than I ever did over here in the Compelled phase. However, I turned most of this opportunity down.
Wow.
And it was because it was like, when you get in that Cultivate phase, you're like, nah, dude, I'm waiting for that real thing I'm supposed to go do. And it's almost like you get distracted and tempted, where I think is a little bit of where it's like trying to see if whether you call it universe or nature or world or can get you to go back before you ever come back over here. So sometimes you get tempted with some crazy. I was getting like crazy offers. I'm like, my God, this is insane. I should go do this. And my buddy came to me one day. He's like, dude, how are you getting all these crazy opportunities? As I went through and kind of broke it down, I was like, dude, I think I was really getting like, in a way, tested to see if I would turn back and not go through this side over here. And I think when entrepreneurs get this side, dude, it's the most happiest inner peace, inner success, because at the end of every day, it's a successful day. One of the ways that I'll tell you, you ever heard this terminology called, this is probably one of the biggest things that's helped me, is called, kind of through this journey here, it's called, I call it, and people, I didn't create this, people call it different things, but I call it segmented intentions. You ever heard that terminology like that? Segmented intentions. And what that means is, throughout my entire day, bro, whatever I have going on, I have different meetings, or I have different corporate stuff, I got different podcasts I'm shooting or on. Before I go through different segments of all throughout my day, I'll take just a quick moment and by myself, if I can, and I'll just try to think through, I will on purposely set my emotional intentions of what I want to feel out of that meeting. Okay?
Oh yeah.
So this is where I got stuck at, where it's like I used to set intentions of what I wanted the outcome to be. So it's like, in this presentation, I want to feel that I added a lot of value to the people. That's an outcome. That's not an emotional feeling. You providing value is an outcome. When you create the emotional intention of your feeling, it's more of me asking you, how do you want to feel after this meeting that me and you had right here? And what happens is it's amazing because your brain it's just crazy. And sometimes I feel like I feel like I'm crazy for saying this stuff. But when you set your emotional intention, your subconscious and subconscious brain will just start producing that for you. Because that's what you're right. It's what you're telling your body to produce. It becomes
visceral.
It becomes what you are setting out as your immediate intention. And so when I go into meetings, or when I segment throughout the day, if I say, man, I want to feel connected in this meeting with my team, right? What happens is in that meeting that we have, the meeting energy, synergy, all the dynamics of the meeting begins to naturally change. Because
it's like a Jedi superpower.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's funny you were saying Jedi all day today, and now you tied it
it's like
into
Star
Jedi.
Wars, man. But there's this thing that I have in my head, and I use it.
Yeah.
And basically, you've got unicorns and vampires.
Okay.
So unicorns make you smile, add energy to your vitality, to your mana, right? To your internal energy that you use to cast lightning bolts and stuff and create. And then vampires are life suckers.
Yeah.
So I think at first, some people have built a habit of being a life sucker vampire. But that can be fixed by just being conscious about it.
Correct.
And if you practice unicorn mode, so before you meet someone, you're like, I'm gonna really make them feel better about everything, themselves, what's happening around them. I'm gonna add, that's the add value, right? I'm gonna add energy though. Add energy. So if someone leaves feeling more energized and more motivated intrinsically,
Yeah.
then you've done your job.
Correct.
And then you don't even have to sell clothes or anything
Correct.
because they want more of that addictive energy.
Yep.
And if that person starts adding it to you and you add it to them, then you got a friendship.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I call it like I was talking with somebody recently about this. I call it impact versus influence. Impact is going deep but narrow. So impact is where on your unicorn example there, it's like you're going very, very deep with someone and actually creating a real impact in their life. Influence is the opposite of deep and narrow. It's wide, but it's shallow. So like, give you an example, like a lot of people get confused because they want influences. Like again, it's like this cool thing that we have going on in social media, but it's like people want influence, and there's nothing wrong with influence. Influence is great, but it's like if I sat here and said, whoever your favorite person is, Gary Vee or whoever it is, and it's like, well, have you ever talked to them, met with them, ate lunch with them? Do you have ongoing business with them? Like if you took your hero, like you mentioned Warren Buffett earlier with Coke, right? It's like, okay, and Warren Buffett may have a lot of influence in how you invest and with funds and so forth. But if I then said, well, have you ever talked to him? Have you met with him? Most of the time it's no, because influence is, again, more shallow.
That's right.
But wide, right? Because if I say Warren Buffett, we all know who he is and what it is, right? But we've never actually talked to him or met with him. Impact is where you can name people that in your life that have impacted your life, that you feel that natural human side of you that wants to go give impact back and help that person back because they created impact in your life, right? And it goes into like, again, when you get to I think we get in the called phase, you really focus on just creating impact on every person you meet, which is what you're talking about, the unicorn side. You just focus on how do I impact in a positive way that person. Because if I can do that, then I can leave that meeting, I can leave that event, I can leave that presentation and forgetting about if I sold something or what the numbers were, but I know that I did my job. I did my role.
I'm going to shift gears here. I like to
Yeah,
ask
shoot.
this question to everybody because, a lot of people, they see guys like you and me and friends of ours.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's going good, man. Business is good, and social media is good, and people are good, and life is good, and family's good, and things are good. Can you share your biggest ass whooping that you've taken and like how you dealt with that? Because a lot of people, especially the last couple of years, went through some serious beatings, and a lot of people are still stuck in it. You probably get direct messages all day about people that are in that, and we try to help them through it.
Yeah. So if you talk about the biggest ass whooping, it's really pick the year, and we could talk about that.
Your most traumatic
year, right?
one. Sometimes you get PTSD from it.
And I'm saying it because, like, think about it. Like, as an entrepreneur, we always get kicked in the teeth. It's part of, like, what we freaking do. It's part of our life that we live. Different levels of getting kicked in the teeth. But my biggest one, if you're talking about my biggest one, was 2008. I was in real estate prior to that. And I was in the compelled phase, if you go back to that. And it was just about producing. And I was buy, fix, sell, buy, fix, sell. And, dude, I was 23, 24, 25 years old. Freaking crushing it in real estate, and was buy, fix, and selling like 100 houses in a year.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, especially you talk about fix and flips. And we were doing some new construction stuff, and I built a company. I knew nothing about the market. I knew nothing about the industry. All I knew was if I bought an ugly house at the right price, I could fix it up and sell it, and it would just magically go away as soon as I got done with it. And so then my ADD side said, well, okay, how many can we do? Like, this is great. How many can we go do, right? And then 2007-8 hit, and I took a beating and lost everything, man. I lost my house, lost my car, lost my wife left me. I ended up moving back in my mom and dad's basement. I was 20, whatever, I can't remember the exact age, but 26-ish, somewhere around there probably, and was living in my mom and dad's basement, and lost everything I had. I was gone. I was on my mom and dad's cell phone plan. And when you call this, like, it says my mom or dad's name, it's like versus my name on the caller ID, if you will, and that was the biggest loss. That if you talk about traumatic loss, that was my biggest.
What's the big lesson you learned from that?
There's a bunch, man. One is, one big one is, again, you just got to understand. If I talk about money for a second, money is a game. And as an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or a wantrepreneur, understand that money is a game. And just like any board game out there that we could bring on this table right here, there's rules to that game. And I don't make the rules and you don't make the rules, but there's rules to the game of money. Mm-hmm. And you could be really, really good at a vehicle of money, which I was. Fixing and flipping houses is a vehicle of money. Mm-hmm. And you can be great at that. But if you don't understand the actual game of money and the rules of money, and you play by those rules of money, is when you'll constantly have these wins and then loss, and then wins and then loss, and then wins and then loss. It's because you're using a vehicle that you get good at for a while, and you can understand it, but then you have no clue about money or how the game of money, the rules of money work. And once you kind of master the rules of money, it becomes much, much easier for you to proceed.
Well, what are some of your big rules?
Money is always in movement. Money is always in movement. The terminology, I think this is the biggest rule of money, I just call it money movement, and just understand money is going to, everybody out there already plays by this rule of money movement, whether they think they are or not, it's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Money is always in movement. And in the game of money, I break it down that there's two teams. There's contributors and there's creators. It's not right or wrong, though. So some people are like, oh, that's bad or good. It's not bad or good or right or wrong or evil and justice. It's just that there's two sides of this game of money. So in the game of money, there's two teams, right? There's a contributor team, there's a creator team. Contributors, quickly, are just basically your typical, they work a job or they're in entrepreneurship, but they never can grow or scale it, and they're always paycheck by paycheck, which, as you know, is like 76% of all of America is paycheck by paycheck, and that's before all this inflation has hit. So creators are the ones that are the wealthy, that have money, that have all the assets. And so money is constantly going to be in movement. And contributors, if you really break this down for a second and think about it from a macro level, where do the wealthy or the creators get all their money from? Okay? So if you just think this through for a second, on a macro level, where do everybody that has money, where does that money actually come from? And it really comes from all of us get all of our money from one location. Contributors. Mm-hmm. Money always flows from contributors to creators. And again, that's not bad. This is the game of money. Mm-hmm. And if I could break it down for you, for the contributors that are listening right now, you're trying to figure out which one am I? Contributors, think about this. Every time you pay on the first, you get your paychecks, and the first thing you do is pay your rent. Okay, that money's moving, right? The money's moving from your account to someone else's account. Mm-hmm. And who owns those houses, right? I mean, you both own real estate. Who owns the houses or the buildings? It's the people that have assets and have money, and that money is flowing from this side to that side. The contributors to the creators. If you pay your car payment, it's going this side or this side. If you pay when you go grocery shopping, who owns the grocery stores? You pay your cell phone. Who owns Verizon? Money's always moving. Mm-hmm. Your job is to get in the flow of making sure that your money is always in movement. You said something earlier today while we were doing the tour. And it goes back to this principle. You always are moving your money. And I don't want to give too much away of what you do because I don't know how much you share with everybody. But you said every time I get gains in this category, yeah, I love moving it into this bucket.
Crypto, guys. So
okay.
So if I do a double,
yeah,
which is not hard to do in crypto, I take the principal out, boop, completely.
Yep.
And redeploy into real estate or stocks.
Yep, you'll move it, right. You move the money again.
And then if I do another double,
yep,
I peel off 20%, real estate or stocks.
Okay.
And that's what, but that way you have, a lot more security. So if there's a real estate crash, a stock crash,
yep,
a crypto crash,
yep,
at least you've got that. And also what I do is not be over leveraged.
Yep.
There's an old saying that God is on the side of the army with the largest artillery and most ammunition. Right? So if you've got surplus ammo and artillery, your chances are higher.
Yep.
That's
a Trojan horse comes in, and that's why God is on the side of the one who has the most amount of weapons and leftover ammo or ammo surplus. But it's very true. And that's all you were doing. Like, you were literally saying, this is how I move money. And you were constantly, every time you do this, then you do this, and you do this, and then you do this. And just constantly, you have got yourself in a position where you're always moving the money. That's one of the most important rules of the game of money.
You got to write down the rules, though, of that, because I see a lot of younger people do a lot of trading. They're buying crap coins or weird stocks and stuff, and they get so emotionally attached. But really, when you move your money, it needs to be mathematically based, and as much as you can detach emotion is when you win the most.
Yep, and it's hard, especially when you're getting going,
to
detach from money, right? It's easy to say it, right? But this goes back to that compelled phase. When someone on this side is telling you, when I say this side, I'm talking like the called side, when they're right where they're supposed to be, and they're telling you this is how it works, it's hard to take that advice. The advice is, it's 100% true. you have to find a way to, as much as you humanly possibly can, detach yourself from the money. And I kind of look at it, this is how I always kind of describe it. I look at it as employees, right? You have a ton of employees here, I have employees. If you had an employee that came into work, you owned a restaurant or whatever, and you came into work, and there's lunchtime, there's a freaking line out the door, and you're paying this cook or whatever, and orders are getting backed up, and you come in, and he's laying on the couch or a sack of potatoes, not working. What would you do as the owner of the store, and you see your cook and your customers are all waiting for all their food, and here's this employee just laying here, is like, oh, I'm going to take a nap right now. Every time I give this illustration, people are going to do one or two things. Either A, they're going to get upset and fire that person because I'm not going to pay you to nap and sleep on the sack of potatoes. Or you have the other that are managers that are like, well, I'm gonna sit down with him and I'm gonna try to have a come to Jesus meeting with him and help him grow to know why he can't do it, etc. Okay, either way, I don't care. But action is taken because that employee was not producing of what he was supposed to be producing. He wasn't, and therefore you immediately took action. Inside of it, look at money and money movement the same way. Look at money as detach it from that side and look at it as an employee, if you will. And if that employee was laying on a stack of potatoes and you had customers out there waiting for you, you would want that employee to get to do their job. Money has a job, and your job is to make that money go to work. And if you look at that perspective, you got to think through it of like, dude, that money is not working. My job is to make that money get to work. It can at least help in the detached process, because the detached process is difficult, right? But if you look at it as lazy money that is not living up to its potential, then it's a little bit easier to make that money, make that employee, if you will, quote unquote, go work for you and produce what they're supposed to produce, you know?
Man, dude, you're a super wealth of knowledge here. I'm going to just quickly summarize what I've learned.
Spoke on too many stages, bro.
No, I'm going to summarize what I've learned.
Good luck.
So there's 3 stages. There's the compelled, cultivate, and called phase.
Yeah.
And you really want to strive to get to that called phase because that's the level.
True success, man. True happiness.
And that's the giving phase.
Yeah.
So you want to try to get there. Influence versus impact. And influence is shallow. Impact is deep. You're really getting in there. And that's where you have those conversations to get in viscerally.
Yep.
Some rules. Money's always...
money's a game.
Is a game. And it always needs to be in movement.
That's the rule of money, right? So if you look at money as a game, then what's the rule? The top rule is money movement.
And then the big one for a lot of people is if you're a contributor moving to become a creator, really. And so that ties into your first thing of being compelled to going to this called phase, because that's where most of the super creators are in this called phase, right?
For sure. They'll naturally kind of be there because remember, value, money always follows value, right? Yeah. And so when you normally, not always, but when you normally find someone that has money, you'll normally find that person tends to, not always, but tends to constantly lead with value first, value first, value first. And that goes into that deep conversation of like, what is true value? You know what I mean? What is that real value, not the social media fake value? Like, hey, how can I help you? You probably get all the time on like DMs on Instagram, like, hey, how can I help you? I want to add value to you. And it's like, man, I'm already doing. I'm not going to stop my day to try to tell you how to add value to me so that I can benefit. That's even an awkward conversation you even have, like from my perspective. Like,
I figured out the answer for that.
Did you?
Yeah, so you know, in Instagram you can have macro replies.
Yeah.
Right, pre-programmed ones. And it's just, hey, if you find my stuff helpful, share it so we can help more people.
Yeah, those are good.
And I just bang, 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 bang,
send that out to everybody.
And then sometimes they do, and it really does. If it does help more people, then they've added value.
Great.
You know?
Because now you're going back to your main mission of you truly adding value to everybody that's out there. That goes in that influence side.
I try to. Do you respond to like most?
I try to respond to everybody who DMs me. I even go through like you have like, what do you call it? Primary, general, and then request.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I try to go through as much as I can. I go through all those, and I have my assistant, not my social media person, but my executive assistant, who like runs my life. She'll go through them for me, and because she knows my answers. That's a whole other topic, is how to hire a true executive assistant. But I always say the executive assistant is the only person, as the CEO of the company, the only person that I actually work for is my executive assistant. That's a true executive assistant, bro. Wow. That's a whole nother level of, most people use their executive assistant as like errands and get this stuff off of my plate, where my executive assistant runs I work for them. Like, she tells me what to do, where to be. She made sure I was here. She had my directions, where at what time, made me leave the office. Like, because I'll get involved, and I am focused into this, and she'll come in and say, hey, you got 15 minutes, you got to leave. You got 5 minutes, you're out of here. And there'll be someone else in the room, and she's not rude about it, but that's a whole other story of like how to work with executive assistants.
I haven't figured that one out yet.
There's I've done it for a while, and I went through a ton of trainings on it, but it's one of those things where people keep trying to get me to go write a book or a presentation on how to maximize.
Are you gonna make a video on that, like YouTube or something, or on your Instagram?
I don't want to, because I have no desire to. There's not like a benefit for me to go do it. Yeah. But I have actually trained buddies of mine. I've trained their executive assistants, because they'll come to my office, they see how it works, and they're like, damn, that is really good. And then they're like, dude, I need that in my life. And so they'll go hire one, or I'll go hire one for them, and then I'll train them, and then send them over to them in whatever it is, 2 months, 3 months, and I'll train their executive assistant of how to work with other CEOs.
The problem I've had a few assistants, and they were great, and it was super productive though. But then I found out that they were just eating a lot of my time as far as scheduling me into things. And so then I just got into like choosing maybe just 3 things a day that I want to get done that I feel like it. And that forced me to create processes to get other people to do their things. And then it was great. So I got rid of all my assistants.
We created a 1, 2, 3 process.
Yeah.
Okay, so every time that someone contacts me or DMs that wants to, or they call the office and they want to meet, have a phone call, whatever it is, right? So a lot of times they'll hit me up and I'm like, oh, Drew, hey, I want to meet with you. I want to set this up. And so I'll hit my assistant's Brittany. And so I am a natural person, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are this, they're people pleasers. And so I naturally want to try to help and do whatever I can in that situation. But as you grow, you find yourself like, I would get nothing done. I would just sit in my office all day long talking to random people, trying to help them. And so I'll text Brittany and that person, like, hey, Brittany, this is so-and-so, and hey, they want to schedule a meeting as soon as possible, right? And then Brittany will jump in and she'll be like, hey, great, so-and-so, I'll reach out to you via email, etc. And then I'll get off on a private thread with just me and Brittany, and I'll say, hey, put that as a 2, put that as a 1, or put that as a 3.
Oh.
And then that tells her, without me having to say anything, like at this point I just put 1, 2, or 3, the number. That's all I do.
Priority level?
Back. And so those are different priority levels and then she will then manage that process to a 1 means in my block schedule, get them in at the next available time, even around my block schedule. It means get them in immediately.
Yeah.
It's a high priority, like not move something or cancel an event, but even if in my block schedule it's available, but it's not for a meeting, put them there. 2 would be get them in on the next available block schedule that I have set aside for whatever it is, phone calls, interviews, whatever it is that we're doing. So whenever we have that next block available, they can go there. And 3 is, hey, I really don't need to talk to this person, but I'm willing to because I'm okay with doing it. But push them off for 4 weeks, and so she'll call them and say, hey, listen, Andrew's schedule is extremely busy right now, and he's probably 4 weeks out from being able to get on this whatever it is. And then she'll say, but I love to help you. So she said, if you have like 1 or 2 questions that you really need answered right away, if you'll email me, I will personally go take those to Andrew, and I'll get you the answer right back to you. And so then we have a set time that me and Brittany meet every day, and then she'll run through some of those, and she'll say, hey, this person emailed, you put them as a 4 or 3, they have these 2 questions, how to do this, how to do this. And I'll say, oh, here's the answer. And then she will literally type out the emails, send them back, and it's done. Wow. Because what happens is when you tell someone that you're 4 or 6 weeks off, but she's not saying, so I'll see you in 6 weeks. She's saying, I know you're important, and we want to help you. Give me these 2, and I will personally, next time I meet with him, I'll take this and I'll get it answered for you. They feel super like, oh, great. Thank you so much for helping me. Sometimes they'll say, okay, well, wait. And if they wait, that's fine by me. Like, okay, I have time available in slots in the future for it. But a lot of times, 90% of the time, I'm able to help that person because normally that just means they're not at the maybe organized, detailed level enough where even if I spend this time with them, it's probably not going to be super high levels of value for either side. But if I can help them with one or two of their main points real quick, it gets them down the road that they want to go down without having to eat up my time. So there's all kinds of tricks that I do as my EA, bro.
That's smart.
That I've set up in my life.
You have a like a mastermind, right?
Yeah.
And
CEO mastermind.
So it's for CEOs primarily?
Yeah, CEOs, high-level CEOs, and it's I call my kind of team calls it my playground because I sell nothing there. There's nothing freaking for sale at the mastermind. I don't raise money. I don't do anything. It's just all high-level CEOs. The minimum has to be over $1 million a year, and then we have some of just $1 billion valuations inside of it. And the mastermind is just driven on not where a CEO can go in, because there's a lot of masterminds where you're really trying to go help get your product, sell this thing, or find this person that wants to buy this or whatever. Ours is more of as a CEO, how do you personally grow?
Okay.
Because a lot of times CEOs find themselves always making deals and striking stuff, but they themselves aren't always growing as a CEO. And so we bring in trainers. Again, we have nothing for sale there, so a CEO doesn't have to come in and think they're going to pitch something. There's nothing to be pitched. But we'll bring in speakers that either do two things. High levels of value, like we're going to have you come and speak on crypto. So the other CEOs in the room are like, oh, this is badass, because a lot of them, obviously, especially today's market, want to invest in crypto. So if we bring in a speaker at your caliber to speak to those CEOs, it's great value. Or we'll bring in speakers that are specialized in certain topics, like how do you maximize your team meetings as a CEO? And we'll bring in like an educator, a professor, that authority that speaks on that topic. How do you actually set a vision for your company and then implement that vision to your people, to your staff? Like, so it's a little bit of like where CEOs can actually take stuff away, learn, and go implement it. And then there's the side where they can learn about new topics, like if when you come and speak at it. And then lastly is the network side, right? Because a lot of these events, these old masterminds, dude, there was like, you're a CEO. Like, if I go to CEO, I want to meet the people there and talk and communicate and make connections. But a lot of masterminds is not. Like, so ours is 50-50. 50% is nothing more than designated, set up on purpose networking time for the CEOs.
Where can the people that are not CEOs yet engage with you? Your social media? Or?
Yeah, you have a social media, and I think we just finally made a decision today. I think I was telling you about it. Where in 2022 we're gonna launch a kind of a lower tier for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, wantrepreneurs, right? That are in that where they're not at that level yet, but they can still come to a mastermind and get around all the right people they need to get around. So anyways, all that to say, hit me up on Instagram, dude. It's the easiest place because I will actually
What's your Instagram
respond.
address?
It's my first and last name, Andrew Cordle. My first and last name. Or you go to my website, andrewcordle.com. Either one of those, man, you can find me, dude.
Excellent.
Happy to help out any way I can. Sincerely,
dude,
help out.
We could go on forever, man, because you're awesome. You got so much knowledge here. But go follow him on social media right now because you share a lot of your knowledge on there as well.
Yeah. I try as much as I can. I hate it because it's 60 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I get all this out in 60 seconds? But I try as much as I can to get
it's
it out,
good, quick, and high intensity, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, well, Andrew, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. No, thank you, man. Thank you.
Guys, this podcast is absolutely free, except there is a fee. A couple things you need to do. One, you need to execute. All right, so make sure you take some of these action items. I reviewed some of them. Write them down. Schedule them into your phone and take action for those things. The second thing is if you find value in this, right, like share it so we can help more people. That's something that Andrew and I both like to do. Share it so that we can help more people. I appreciate you guys listening in. We'll see you next week on Dan's Millionaire Code podcast.